Hi everyone, welcome to another Tommy Emmanuel tutorial. Today we'll be taking a look at Mr. Guitar, a short but very sweet instrumental song with, like I said, a sweet melody. You can almost call it a cute melody. This piece is actually suited for fingerstyle beginners, so if you're just getting to grips with the thumb pick, this might actually be a good one to take a closer look at. Maybe not playing it up to speed in just a few days, but the essence of the song is simple enough to be played by beginners in the style, albeit at a slower tempo. So let's dive in and let's have a look. The guitar is in standard tuning and all you need is a thumb pick to get going. Let's take a look at the intro first. It's moving around 2 chords before moving over into the first verse. Here we go. Off into the next section. So as you can see, there's only 2 chords. You're playing off an F chord and an E chord. Now on the F chord, you're not putting down the whole bar. You're playing an F chord as you would on the first fret, but you're lifting up the bar so you get an open B and E string on top of the chord. So those are the first 2 bars. You're starting out with a hammer-on from the 2nd fret to the 4th fret with the pinky, so you can leave the other, or you can use the other fingers straight away to get to the correct chord. So if you're used to playing with a thumb pick, the bass part in itself shouldn't pose any real problems. It's always the well-known alternating thumb pick style by Tommy Emmanuel, and most melody notes are actually open strings, so it shouldn't be that difficult to keep them ringing out. As you can see, most melody notes are played together with the bass notes, and this is something that occurs throughout the song. So most melody notes are actually put exactly together with a bass note you're playing along with the thumb. There's a few fills in 16 notes that move around the melody away from the bass notes, but they're not that plentiful in this song. So one more time, really slowly, and then we're moving on to the next chord. And that was already the next part. So as you can see, we're moving to an E chord, playing the 3rd with a hammer-on, open E string on top, and then the open E string down below. And then we're going to move up this fingering chromatically. So we're not taking the key into account. We're always just shifting up 1 fret by fret. Once we arrive at the 4th fret with the index finger and the 5th fret with the middle finger, that's when we transfer to the verse. So one more time that part on the E chord. And then we're off into the verse. One more time the intro really slowly, and I'll continue straight away to the first verse. To the repeat of the first verse. So let's start out with the very first verse. This piece is actually suited for beginners because the basic of the piece is the bass notes are always moving in eighth notes, and so is the melody. If you watch Tommy live, as usual, he plays a lot of fills and a lot of faster parts as well, but we can reduce the melody to basic eighth notes. So that's what I'm going to do for this very first part of the verse. And then in the second part, I will learn you the variation on the melody in 16 notes that Tommy Emmanuel plays most of the time, and you will see that this variation will also pop up in the next section, as in the chorus or even the ending part. Here we go. So this is the melody in 8 notes, really slowly. Let's stick to that just for now. So that's the first 4 bars. So we're moving around an A chord, moving to an A sus4 chord, just for the melody, and then moving to a G with an added ninth, and then moving to F sharp in the bass with a D chord on top. The melody. 2, 3, 4. So that's the line you should hear clearly above the chords. One thing that's a bit more worthy of attention than most other things in this bar is you're playing a full bar of an A chord. And the last beat is all open strings. You're already playing an open D string to transfer to the G chord. Those few faster notes above this bass line is actually a fill. It's not a melody note, and this is something that Tommy changes the whole time. You can basically add any note you like from that G added ninth chord. Or leave it open. So you can add anything you like, just see what works. If you're still struggling to keep that thumb pattern going, then focus on that and add in the fills later. No need to rush this. On to the next 2 bars. So first 2 bars. And that's the only time the melody goes into 16 notes, just for one little note. Melody note, and only then the next bass note. If you find this difficult, this can help. So just isolate that very little part and play it over and over again over a continuous bass line. So always keep this going. Until that timing feels natural. And then we're coming up on the very first more complicated chords, going to a D chord with an F sharp in the bass, moving to a G sharp diminished 7th chord. People who have played other songs of Tommy will probably recognize the fingering. So a D chord, thumb over the side of the neck for the low bass note, and then to a diminished 7th chord, again with the thumb over the side of the neck. As always, if you find this difficult, playing the bass note with the thumb over the side of the neck, then try adding in an alternative fingering. You could lose the A note, you probably won't be playing it that often anyway, and move over the index finger to the low bass note. And then going to a G sharp diminished chord in the traditional fingering, which means putting down a bar on the 3rd fret, pinky on the high E string, 4th fret, ring finger on the 4th fret of the G string and the middle finger on the 4th fret of the low E string. Same notes. With the thumb and now with the index finger. So it's perfectly possible to replace those two voicings with a voicing you don't need the thumb for. Moving over to an F sharp minor chord, to a C sharp minor chord, D chord, but not in an open voicing, but like in a C shape, moved up 2 frets. And that's maybe something to look out for. You're starting out with a D chord with a bar on the 2nd fret, and then right away you will be lifting off the bar to get an open E string in the melody. See? So. Once again from the F sharp minor chord. And then straight on to the repeat of the 2nd verse. So, and those last few chords are again played with the thumb over the side of the neck. You have a B dominant 7th chord shape, but with the low F sharp in the bass, moving that down 1 fret to the 1st fret. To an E chord. And then the bass line again into the repeat of the verse. This one is a bit harder to replace, so you can replace this chord with the middle finger, but then you have to switch around the middle finger and the index finger to get to the 2nd chord. So but once again, it's perfectly possible to change around this fingering with the thumb to a fingering with the index finger for the bass notes. So once again, this part of the verse, or this whole 1st verse, a bit slower so you can follow along, and then we're continuing to the 2nd verse. The 2nd verse is basically a full repeat of the 1st verse, but now we will be starting to add in those little fills. And let me play the 2nd verse for you one time and you'll see what I mean right away. So there wasn't that much different on the 2nd verse if you compare it to the very 1st one, only that little fill in the 3rd bar and the ending, which we will use to continue to the chorus section. Now, the fills in this song are always the same thing. If you're playing, you're always playing the melody nicely in 8th notes, all 8 notes. And that's the single variation that you will always hear in this song is instead of playing 8 notes, we're going to transfer to 16 notes in between the bass notes. So you're either playing the bass note, the melody notes nicely on the bass notes all the time, or you're playing this, which is always bass note, melody note, bass note, melody note. up to speed, it sounds like this. And the rest is exactly the same. Except for that part. So we're ending this section a little bit differently. Same chord shape, moving over to an E dominant 7th, sliding a melody in 6th, so sliding from the 5th fret on the G string and the E string to the 7th fret, and ending up on an A chord with a pinky on the high E string 5th fret and a little bar on the 2nd fret. And if you already saw the Lewis and Clark tutorial, this will not be something new. So you're playing the bass note, and instead of always alternating to the D string for that boom chick effect, you will now play a chord in between the bass notes. Make sure not to hit that chord too hard, so strike gently with the fingers to get this rhythmic momentum, but no overly accentuated chords. Things have to keep flowing nicely in this mode. One more time, the second verse a little bit slower, and then we will transfer into the chorus. And then we're off into the chorus. Now the chorus can be played in the same way as the verse. You can either pick the melody in straight 8th notes, what I would recommend if you're a beginner in this style, or you can add again some fills in 16th notes, but as you will see, that fill is actually exactly the same thing transferred to a set of new chords. Let me play the chorus for you one time, and then we'll get to the explanation. Right along into the next verse. Now, as you can see, the chorus does use the thumb over the side of the neck quite a lot, and I'm sorry to inform you that in this case there isn't really any other option. So usually I go and look for alternative fingerings in which you can drop out the thumb back behind the neck if you got some smaller hands and play the fingering in a traditional manner. Now in this section, I'm afraid this is not possible. Luckily, the chord shape isn't the most difficult chord shape, so you're working around a standard F chord, so 3rd fret on the D string, 2nd fret on the G string, 1st fret on the B string, and putting the thumb over the side of the neck on top of the guitar. What you also need is an open E string, and once you can manage this, so this is basically an F major 7th chord, so 3rd fret, 2nd fret, 1st fret, open string, thumb over the side of the neck. If you can manage this, then this section should work as well in terms of the other fingerings. Let's go over it really slowly. Let's start with the melody notes on the bass notes all the time. So only bass notes in 8th notes, melody notes in 8th notes as well. That last quicker fill is the exact same thing as you already played in the verse, so that should feel comfortable once you can play the verse. That shouldn't be a problem either. And everything else is sitting nicely on the bass notes. In between there are a few hammer-ons and pull-offs tucked away, and if you play those, they should always land, if you pull off, for instance, from the first fret to the open string, it should land nicely on the next bass note. So as you can see, open string, first fret, pull off, and I pull off to the note at the exact same time I'm playing the lower bass note. In the first bar there's a hammer-on as well, which uses the exact same line of thought. Same thing, once you hammer on, exactly at the same time as you play the lower bass note. That section over the A chord is not too difficult. You're starting out with an A chord, then to an A with a raised fifth, to an A with an added sixth degree, and finally to a dominant seventh. So this is, string is moving up chromatically, second fret, third fret, fourth fret, fifth fret. And again, all of the melody notes are put nicely on top of bass notes, so that should really help you to synchronize those two parts together. One more time, the first 4 bars of the chorus, and then on to the next. Notice that, so we're already adding in some fills, so we're moving away from the melody approach all in 8th notes, and we're adding fills again. Now this fill and all the other fills you will play is again exactly the same thing, moving the melody away from the beat and playing them in 16th notes in between the bass notes. So let me play that single bar with the fill added. That second part, that faster part, is every single melody note is in between the bass notes. Only the very first one is played together with the bass notes and followed up with 16 notes in between everything else. To speed. With the rest of the melody in front of that added. And the second bar is exactly the same as the first time. So if you're learning this song, again, if you feel like you have work to do in terms of synchronizing the melody and the bass line, then go for the 8th note approach. If you're comfortable with the alternating bass line, then go for the fills as well. Let's close out the chorus section by playing a B flat chord without a bar, so you're raising the bar of the B flat chord, so you have an open E string on top. Flattening the bar, so you get a full sounding B flat chord. To the 5th fret. You can look at this as a part of a D minor chord, but I'm pretty sure this is meant as a B flat major 7 sound. So an E 9th sus4 chord, which is basically just a bar across the 7th fret with only the low E note escaping that bar and sounding open. Adding the melody on the 9th fret and the 10th fret. Sliding to a melody in 6th again. 6th fret, sorry, on the G string. 5th fret on the E string. Sliding from the 7th fret to the 9th fret and coming straight back down. playing another melody note at the 4th fret of the high E string, overlapping back to the 7th fret. And then something special happens if you watch Tommy Emmanuel videos. He slides down this note while it sounds out to the 3rd fret, while at the same time playing the open string with a little hammer-on and pull-off embellishment. Now when I play this, most of the time this D note doesn't actually sound out when I'm arriving at the 3rd fret, so sometimes I just leave it out. If that quick embellishment goes a bit too fast, you can also skip that one if you want to. So you can play this, which is the easy version, sliding up, back down. Open string, which gives you the time to transfer to the open position for the pull-off, and the E major arpeggio. This does make it a lot easier, again, with the embellishment. So it's up to you, you've got the choice. Either you go for the easier approach, leave out the slide, leave out the embellishment, or go full Tommy and try to get it all into your fingers. That was the chorus. From now on, it's mostly repetition. There's only one single section that will ask some extra work, but everything else is under your fingers already. So one more time, the chorus, I'm going to transfer to the 2nd verse, then I'm going to transfer to the 2nd chorus, and in the 2nd chorus there's something new for you to play. So I'll stop when we get there. Verse 3, I'm just going to pick up the pace slightly, a bit more up to concert speed. This verse is only played one time, so the 1st and the 2nd verse were played back to back. The 3rd verse is only this short. Now we're already transferring to the next chorus. Back to the very last verse. Now, as you can see in this chorus section, there is something that's a little bit different. We're starting out with the same melody, only a very slight variation. Instead of back dropping down to the E string, B string, and pulling off, we're staying on the E string. Index finger pulling off and back to the 3rd fret of the B string. And then it's open G string, open D string, G string, B string, hammering on and sliding up to the A chord. So open strings, 1st fret, 2nd fret. Fingerings aren't that difficult. From an A chord, adding in or moving up the bar to the 3rd fret and adding in the middle finger, and moving that exact same chord shape up again 1 fret and replacing the 5th fret with the 7th fret on top. And ending on an A chord playing the bass note 1/8 note after the chord. And going chromatically down back to the F chord. So open A string, 4th fret on the E string, 3rd fret, 2nd fret, and then transferring again to the thumb to get to the next chord for the chorus section. Let me play that one more time, a bit slower. Next section, those next 2 bars, as you can see, were the same as in the first chorus, and we're adding in the same fills again. You can choose, maybe you like adding in that fill the very first time as well, so you, instead of playing, you play. And now no fill. To the last verse section. So as you can see, apart from that 2 bars in between, the rest of the chorus is exactly the same. On to the very last verse now, and it's again repetition. The only thing that's going to happen is we're going to repeat the last 2 bars, and that requires a bit of a nasty stretch, but don't worry, there is an alternative for that as well. So here we go, last verse. And so on and so on. So as you can see, the very first time we're ending on that A chord. Ending, so open A, E string, 1st fret on the E string, sliding up to the 2nd fret, or just playing the 2nd fret, sorry, no slide. And then going back to the same bar chord. And that melody is already known. So what you can also do, if this is too much to ask of your left hand stretching from the 5th fret to the 1st fret on the low E string, you can also play a G sharp to transfer to the F sharp chord again. So works just as well. So either you have this or whatever way you choose, it sounds fine. So it's not really necessary if it hurts or you can't manage to get this stretch in a fluid way into your fingers, then the 4th fret is a perfectly reasonable alternative. Time to end the song, and we're doing that by playing the intro again. So let me play a piece of the 3rd verse one more time, and then I'm going to transfer to the ending of the song. And now we're playing the same lick we did in intro. And that's where you can end the song by playing an A chord. Now I'm going to come back on that right away. So what is difficult is playing the strumming pattern on the A chord and getting that lick worked in between there. You could end the song there, or you could go full Tommy Emmanuel and play one of his blazing hammer-on and pull-off licks at the end. And he has one for this song as well. Let me play it for you one time slowly, explain it to you, and then try to get it up to tempo. This is how it goes. Which is the full ending. So as you can see, it's a lick that spans quite a certain amount of space on the guitar, both in terms of frets and strings. So you're playing 5 out of 6 strings, and still you're only using the pinky once. So Tommy seems to avoid intentionally using the pinky in this lick and mostly going for fingerings using the index finger and the ring finger. So you're starting out with the ring finger on the 5th fret, sliding down to the 4th fret, pulling off to the 2nd fret, played with the index finger, and then to an open string. With the ring finger to the 5th fret, which sounds exactly the same as the note you've just pulled off to. Back to the index finger on the 2nd fret, and that sounds a bit strange because you're playing the same note over and over again, but each time on a different string. So you're playing the open E and an E note as well on the 5th fret of the the B string. Sorry. Same fingering, pulling off from the ring finger to the index finger on the 2nd fret to an open string. Going, it's the same trick. Pulling off to the B string and playing that note again as a fretted note. Pulling off from the ring finger to the index finger and sliding down to the 1st fret. And this will be the only time when we're adding the pinky on the 4th fret of the D string. Switching to the ring finger, index finger, pulling off, ring finger, index finger, pulling off. Which is the full ending. It is a weird fingering, so take your time getting this into your fingers. Maybe experiment, maybe it feels better for you using the pinky on a few places. Or, sorry. Seems to me a more logical fingering using the pinky a few times, but you do lose a bit of strength when executing those pull-offs, and on an acoustic guitar with a bit heavier strings that actually takes its toll. So see what fingering works for you, try to work through it. If this doesn't work or work out right away, there's no need to add it to the end of the song. So learn the rest of the song, get it into your fingers, and then as soon as you manage to play this ending lick up to speed, then add it to the rest of the song or add it to the ending. But there is no need to postpone live performances of this song if you aren't able to play that very last lick. So let's try it up to speed a bit more. One thing to take into account, if you learn this lick, every note is exactly as long as the next one or the previous one. Exact 16 notes all around. Make sure your slides don't rush your hammer-ons or your pull-offs. I think there are no hammer-ons in this one, but your pull-offs don't rush. So every single note should have the exact same length as the rest. as they say, the sting is in the tail in this one. So that ending lick feels to me more difficult than anything else in the song. As always, have fun with this time. Take your time, don't rush things, get this into your fingers, and check back on the channel for other Tommy Emmanuel tutorials. See you next time. Bye bye.